motion. We are discussing about inertia. Here, inertia means it's nothing but we can say it is inability of a body, inability of a body to change its state of rest or motion or direction. That means actually we can frame the inertia in three categories to understand that inability. So inertia means we can classify in three categories what I told: inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and we can also write it as inertia of direction, Three categories. We made the inertia into three categories. What is inertia means? Inability of the body to change its state of rest. Is called as inertia of rest. That means it is in the condition of rest. We are not able to move, or it is at rest. So it can't move itself. It can't move itself from rest. If any external force is applied, then we can move. That's a different story. But it can't move from its rest by itself. So that is called as inertia of rest. Suppose a body is moving, It can't stop by itself. But itself from motion condition. It can't stop. Some external force has to some frictional force, or we must stop the body. Otherwise, the body will not stop. So the body can't stop by itself. Body will be moving and it can't stop by itself. That is called as inertia of motion. And now inertia of direction. Suppose you are going in one direction. Until unless somebody pulls you this direction in this way or that way, somebody are external force and applying like that, and you can't change your direction. You'll be going on, continuing direction. Until unless some external force is there. So until unless some external force acts on the body is not able to change its direction. That means we can simply say inability of the body to change its state of rest state or motion or direction. Rest state or motion or direction, then we can by itself is called as inertia of a body. It can't change by itself, is called inertia. Now let us see some examples for these three things. Let us first discuss about inertia of rest. So we told that suppose the passengers are standing in the bus. So suppose this is some truck is there. Suppose you take truck here. So some persons are standing on backside of the truck. One person is standing on backside of the truck. So when the person is standing on the backside of the truck and driver starts the bus, driver starts the bus front. When he starts the bus front, he will feel the backward jerk. Bus when starts, he feels the backward jerk. Initially, bus is in the condition of rest. From rest, it came starts. So one bus will, the truck is moving front. The person is moving back and falling back. Why? Because he don't want to change his state of rest or motion. He will be like this only. There is no external force acting on him. The truck is going front, but he will remain in the same position. So it's going front means what will happen? He don't have his ability to change by itself. He'll fall backside. So he'll experience the backward jerk here. So the truck is continuing. That means here what happened for the person? The upper part of the body continues to be in a, that means what when you observe, the upper part of the body continues to be in the condition of rest. And the lower part, it went because of front and upper part is at in the condition of rest, it falls back. Suppose now you observe now. Already the truck is in motion. Truck is in motion. It's going with a speed. It is going on with some acceleration. Suddenly applied brakes. They applied brake here now. They applied brake. So brakes they applied, the bus gets decelerated. The bus gets decelerated. They applied the brakes. When they apply the brakes, what will happen? The upper part now will be in the motion and lower part will come to rest. Lower part of rider comes into the, what will happen in this situation, beta? Upper part of the body is in the condition of motion and continues in the motion, and lower part comes to rest. So that what will happen? You will fall flat. In previous, upper part is at rest, upper part is at rest, and the bottom part is in motion. It falls down. Bottom part is in motion. Bottom part motion. Now in this case, upper part is in motion, upper part is in motion, and bottom part is in the condition of rest. So now what happened? It falls front here. In previous, it falls back here. So like that, the things of happen in inertia of rest and inertia of motion. Now we have to discuss about inertia of direction. Inertia of direction. So inertia of direction means here. So when what will happen if a knife is sharpened by pressing it against a grinding stone? So a knife is there. This is a grinding stone. It is. A knife is sharpened by using this one. This knife is there. Is a knife sharpened by grinding stone. The sparks fly off along the tangent. When you keep that knife on the grinding stone, this grinding stone is turning like that, and you are keeping for sharpening this knife. What will happen means you will observe the sparks in the tangent. Sparks. You will observe the sparks are coming here. Sparks are coming. The sparks you observe in the tangent direction. Sparks you observe in the tangent direction. So the sparks are going in a tangent direction on account of directional inertia. On account of directional inertia. So the knife is sharpened by pressing it against a grinding stone. The sparks fly off along the tangent. So now it is rotating like this. You are thinking then the tangent, along the tangent we can observe the, what will observe? Sparks. We'll observe the sparks. So this explains us inertia of direction. Inertia of direction. So that the sparks will continue in the same direction here. Okay, beta. So this is the information about inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and inertia of direction. Inertia means inability of the body to change its direction of motion by itself. Okay, I hope you are clear with the inertia topic now. Now let us see what is the Newton's first law. Here Newton's first law is nothing but explains inertia. Indirectly we discuss the Newton first law only, beta. Newton first law means Newton first law explains about what? Inertia. So Newton first law says that everybody continues to be in its state, in its state of rest or uniform motion, in a straight line, unless compelled by some external force, acts. External force acts otherwise. So this is the formula what we have. That means definition for Newton first law. Newton first law is indirectly what is saying. It is continuous to be in a state of rest or motion, uniform motion in a straight line, unless compelled by some external forces acts otherwise. So if there are no external force acting on a body, then they don't change here. So the force here, that means from here what we gives to light? Force. So it gives the concept of inertia and force. Newton's first law will give the concept of what? It gives concept of Newton's first law means it gives concept of inertia and force. Both. Inertia means, what do you mean by inertia? Inability of the body to change state of rest or motion or direction. We told like that. And here force means without force it is not able to change its inertia. So it is not able to change its ability. That means it will get ability means how it will get ability? It don't have ability to change by itself. Some external force has to be there. That is nothing but force. We are applying to make it here. And enables to define them. So it gives the information, it gives the concept of inertia and force and enables us to define them. Enables us to define them. This is the situation what we observe here in Newton's first law. So the second point you can observe here, from this law we can, from first law, it can be concluded that the acceleration, very important point beta, the acceleration of an object, acceleration and of an object is zero. Object is zero if there is no external force. If there is no external force. When there is no external force, the body will not have acceleration. So without external force, the acceleration will not be there. The body either will be in the condition of rest or uniform motion. Is moving means it will move with uniform velocity. And rest means no acceleration. Moving with uniform velocity, acceleration zero. Like that, Newton's first law is explained. Now, I hope you are clear with Newton's first law. Now, whereas Newton's second law, for objective point of view, Newton's second law plays a vital role. Newton's second law. So what does Newton's second law says that? Newton's second law says that the second law of motion refers the general situation. It refers the general situation. It refers the general situation when there is a net external force. When there is a net external force acting on the body, net external force acting on the body. It relates the net external force to the acceleration of the body. It relates the net external force to the acceleration of the body. To acceleration of the body. So here, so this is Newton's second law. Newton's second law says that second law of motion refers the general situation where there is a net external force acting on the body. It relates the net external force to acceleration of the body. What is this formula, sir? What is this definition? You are telling net is external force acting net. Why you are using net external force? And what happened? How it is related to acceleration? Like that means. Actually, I'll give that information to you now. Suppose here, why I use the net force? Suppose I use only one. I use the term force. One force is acting here. One force is acting here in opposite direction. So what is the net force? Zero. So if this net force is zero, the body will be either in the condition of rest or uniform motion. So we must not have rest condition. It must be in the state of either the two forces, one must be greater than the other. One must be greater than the other. Suppose if F1 is greater than F2, then what will happen? It will move in this direction. So the body will get acceleration. The body will acquire acceleration if there is net force. Without net force, that means what is the net force here? The body is going in the direction of F1 means the net force is F1 minus F2. So if net, they simply you say force acts on the body, then it is having acceleration. No. If the force acts means the total forces will, suppose they cancel, the net force is zero, the body can't have acceleration. The body will be at rest or uniform motion. When we can say the net force to be zero means, we can't say there is acceleration. Here acceleration is also not there. So the topic of acceleration arises. The topic of acceleration arises only when we have net force. Only we have net force. So whenever we have net force, we have acceleration. So here acceleration came to the play if we have net force. That means when the forces are acting unbalanced, the forces are unbalanced, forces are acting, we will have the net force. I hope you are clear with this idea now. Let us see now. Let us go to the topic here, that is about, finally we have to discuss about linear momentum. To understand Newton's second law of motion, we need to have the complete information about linear momentum. Until unless we are not clear about linear momentum, we can't understand Newton's second law. So now Newton's second law to analyze. First we have to know what is linear momentum. Linear momentum is nothing but mass into velocity. In simple term we can write linear momentum mass. This is the linear momentum. Momentum is a vector quantity. Linear momentum is a vector quantity. Mass is a scalar. We must not put vector here. So linear momentum is mass into velocity. Mass into velocity is a vector quantity we told. So what does it indicate actually? Simply linear momentum is product of mass and velocity. Fine. Linear momentum is product of mass of the body and its velocity. Mass of the body and its velocity. Now it is what type of quantity means? Okay, linear momentum is vector quantity. Vector quantity. What are its units means? I can write units. SI units means kg meter second inverse. How you know, sir? Mass units kg. Mass units kg. And velocity units meter second inverse. This is a SI unit. This is totally we call it as SI unit. And we can also write this one as gram centimeter second inverse. Gram centimeter second inverse. We'll write G per gram. So I'm writing here G centimeter second inverse. So now what is gram centimeter second inverse means? I can write it as here also CGS units. This is nothing but CGS units of linear momentum. Fine. Linear momentum SI units, linear momentum CGS units, linear momentum is a vector quantity. We got some information about linear momentum. So now here the momentum is nothing but it is having a mass into velocity we told. Fine. We are happy in that one. What is change in momentum? What is change in momentum? Change in momentum. Change in momentum is you have to take vector quantities. That is I can write it as change in momentum as P final momentum minus P initial momentum. Suppose initial momentum I am writing it as M into U bar. Final momentum I am writing it as M into V bar. This is the initial momentum and final momentum. From here, delta P bar is equal to M into V bar minus U bar. M into V bar minus U bar. Or we can also simply write, actually MV bar minus MU bar, I have taken the common M and I have written. So now what we observed here is change in momentum is M into V bar minus M into U bar. This is about change in momentum. Change in momentum. Let us see some applications of change in momentum. So when we observe change in momentum, it is a vector quantity. Suppose I have written P2 bar minus P1 bar, for example. Then I can write delta P is equal to, from parallelogram law of acceleration, P1 square plus P2 square minus 2P1 P2 cos theta. This is change in momentum. This is from parallelogram law of acceleration. Already we discussed in our previous classes about parallelogram law of acceleration. Theta is equal to 0, theta equal to 180, theta equal to 90. If you substitute, what will happen? To change in momentum. Change in momentum will become minimum. Change in momentum value is minimum when you take theta equal to 0. Substitute here 0. What will happen here, beta? In this cos theta, cos 0 means 1. So here square root of a square plus b square minus 2ab means I can write it as, I can simply write P1 difference P2. And if I observe this one, delta P is maximum, because cos 180, if you observe, minus 1. Cos 180 minus 1 means minus of minus plus, and we'll get P1 plus P2. And suppose here theta equal to 90, then delta P will become cos 90 0. So I can write P1 square plus P2 square. This is the base information to be noted for change in momentum. Again, some more information I want to give. We wrote delta P bar is equal to P2 bar minus P1 bar, fine. If suppose if P1 is equal to P2 is equal to, suppose, let us say it as P. P1, P2 both are equal. Then the change in momentum magnitude from parallelogram law of acceleration, I can write it as 2P into cos theta by 2. This is the expression we got from parallelogram law of acceleration. How you got that expression? Means simple. Delta P we know from parallelogram, P1 square plus P2 square minus 2P1 P2 cos theta. Here in the place of P1 and P2, if you substitute P and simplify, you will get that above expression. So that is the information what we got, and final formula I have written. Now again I don't want to derive this one. It is there in parallelogram law of acceleration concept, you can check. Now delta P is equal to, what will happen if you take theta equal to 60 degree? If you take theta is equal to 120 degree, or if you take theta equal to 90 degree, what will happen to the resultant in all these situations? So now theta equal to 60 degree means cos 60 by 2. Observe here in the place here we have to substitute cos 60 by 2, cos 30 root 3 by 2. So what will get here? 1 minute. Here when we observe here, it is not 2p cos, it is 2p sin theta by 2. We'll derive this one. We don't get 2p cos theta by 2. We'll get 2p sin. Remember beta, delta p bar in derivation, if P2 bar plus P1 bar, we'll get it as delta P is equal to 2P cos theta by 2. 2P cos theta by 2. We wrote wrong that one. Delta P bar is equal to P2 bar minus P1 bar. Then we'll get delta P is equal to 2P sin theta by 2. 2P sin theta by 2. So like that we have derived it. Previously we wrote wrong that one. Check it out, that one now. So this is 2P sin theta by 2. 2P sin theta by 2. Suppose theta is equal to now 60. Sin 60 by 2, sin 30, sin 30 1 by 2. So finally what we'll get here is R is equal to delta P. That is delta P is equal to, I can write it as P. Here delta P is equal to, what will happen? Change in momentum. Again theta 120 by 2, sin 60 root 3 by 2. 2 cancel, root 3 by 2. Theta 90 sin 90 by 2, sin 45, 1 by root 2, 2 by root 2 is root 2. I can write delta P as root 2. From parallelogram law of acceleration, we have these derivations. You have to remember for change in momentum. After this information, we understood about how to handle change in momentum, different situations and everything. Now, let us see second law of motion. Second law. The second law of motion, how to handle means here. Second law of motion, how to handle here. The rate of change of momentum. The rate of change of momentum of the body, rate of change of momentum of a body is directly directly proportional to the resultant, directly proportional to the resultant or net external force. Resultant or next external force resultant or next external force acting on the body and takes place in the direction takes place in the direction takes place in the direction in which the force acts in which the force acts. So this is second law of motion. This is the second law of motion definition. The rate of change of momentum of body is directly proportional to the resultant or next external force acting on the body and takes place in the direction of with the force acts. So what happened here just now? Already we discussed that one indirectly here. Here I told that if a body applied and the force is applied on this body of M, it is going in this direction, acceleration. So now what they are saying means it changes its momentum. So now when it crosses to some time, this is initial momentum, this is the final momentum. So it changes from here to here, that is initial to final. So here delta P is nothing but change in momentum. Delta P is P final minus P initial, it is change in momentum. So we can write here the force according to definition, the rate of change of momentum by time is called as force. So they have given that initial momentum is mu, suppose. Final momentum is mv. The body when it traveled in a time t, from initially this position to this position, then force is rate of change in momentum, that is delta p by delta t. So from here I can write F is equal to K into delta P by delta T. K is proportionality constant. So now F is equal to K into delta P by delta T. F is a force and the rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum is I can also write delta P by delta T. Rate of change of momentum means change in momentum by time interval. So now this is the formula what we got. Let us see this one now. Now I hope you are clear here. Force is rate of change in momentum. Force is rate of change in momentum by time we discussed. Now let us observe here. F is equal to K into delta P by delta T. K is K into delta P by delta T. Now suppose here delta T tends to 0. Delta T, that means time interval is very small. Then delta P, then what to write when delta T tends to 0? We can write here limit delta T tends to 0. K into delta P by delta T. So I can write K into limit delta T tends to 0. Delta P by delta T. Delta P by limit delta T tends to 0. Delta P by delta T is called as differentiation. That's the formula for differentiation. I already taught you that in our differentiations, change in momentum by change in time. Time interval is very less and tends to 0. Time interval is tends to 0. Then we can write F equal to K into dP by dt. So F equal to K into dP by dt we have written. And further what should I write here? F equal to K into dP by dt. Okay, my formula I got. Now you observe here. What I am doing here is F is equal to K into d by dt of P can be written as mv. And I can write now mass is constant means m into K into dV by dt. So mass constant, I removed from that one. Differentiation, dv by dt is nothing but, what is dv by dt? Differentiation of velocity with respect to time, acceleration. So F is equal to K into M into A. F equal to K into M into A. Here what happened here? So K value, so I want to get the make value to make the K value as 1. I'm taking the definition of unit force. So I'm selecting the definition of unit force here. Unit force is nothing but force acting on unit mass, producing unit acceleration, force acting on unit mass, producing unit acceleration in its own direction, So here everything is 1. That means nothing but indirectly what it says here, F is a unit force, F is equal to 1, unit mass, M is equal to 1, and its own direction, and it produces unit acceleration. This is a unit force definition. From here, if you substitute in the formula, next page I'm taking now, there what I'm doing here is, just here, F equal to, same page I will write, otherwise, here observe, F value 1, K value 1, M value, that's K value we don't know, M value 1, A value 1. That means K value is also equal to 1. So from this definition part, I got K value as 1. That means final formula is F is equal to MA. Final formula is F equal to MA. So this is the formula from second law of motion. Second law of motion is the formula. I hope you are clear with Newton first law and Newton second law. How we handle Newton first law and Newton second law. These are the things very important for